Hi everybody and welcome to Mike's Hidden Histories. Today I want to tell you about an ordinary person from our past, but is still remembered today because of her heroism during Ireland's difficult history. And this is the story of Anne Devlin. And Anne was born in the Wicklow Hills and the east coast of Ireland, between Rathdrum and Aughrim, in a little place called Croonbeg, in 1780. Now, in 1798, the very bloody rebellion, United Irishmen rebellion, took place, and unfortunately, Anne's father, while not associated with it, was put in jail for 2.5 years because the Devlins were cousins of the Wicklow insurgent leader Michael Dwyer. After that rebellion failed, Michael Dwyer hid out in the Wicklow Mountains with a group of others and became guerrilla fighters, in fact, and lasted there for 4 or 5 years. Now, the family moved, the Devlin family had to move eventually to Rathfarnham, closer to Dublin, and they leased a 14-acre farm in Rathfarnham in Butterfield Lane. And in 1802, a neighbour moved into Butterfield House. His name was Robert Emmet. Now, Robert Emmet was from the ascendancy class. He was Protestant, well-to-do, born in Stephen's Green in Dublin, Ireland's premier address. But he'd gone to Trinity College. He was a brilliant orator, but not a great organiser. And his aim back in Ireland was to resume the rebellion of 1798 by attacking Dublin Castle, the home of the British establishment rule in Ireland. Now, he befriended Anne Devlin, and she then moved into his house as his housekeeper so that they could work together in planning the rebellion. Anne ensured that there were 2 meetings in April 1803 with Michael Dwyer and Robert Emmet. Dwyer agreed to support Emmet. Emmet had been promised, or was that French support would come, but none did come. Now, on July 1803, on July the 23rd, 1803, the supposed rebellion began, but it was a skirmish really in Dublin city. It lasted only 1 evening. It was easily dispersed. Robert Emmet went into hiding back at the house in Butterfield Lane where Anne was. She knew she was going to get a visit very shortly from the military, which she did. She had burnt everything associated with the rebellion. She was taken here, she was interrogated, and she was tortured, in fact, that evening. Her 8-year-old sister was with her. The military prodded her with bayonets, caused considerable wounds over her body, and then took her outside to a tree and placed a noose around her neck and half hanged her. She was taken to Dublin Castle and interrogated by Sir Henry Charles Sir, the Chief of Police. She was offered bribes, significant bribes, still refused to betray the whereabouts of Robert Emmet. Now, she was thrown into jail and she spent 2.5 years there. But Robert Emmet was captured in August 1803, and in September 1803, he was hanged in Dublin, publicly hanged, and his body, or his head, was cut off and was held up to the crowd, and his head was placed on public display. Now, Anne, meanwhile, is in the jail. She is completely badly treated there. She was moved in 1806 to Dublin Castle, and it was here where Charles Long, the Chief Secretary, heard about her, went to see her, and was completely shocked by her state, by her poor state of health, mental health, physical health, and basically a very sick woman. She was released. Now, the Emmet's family got her some work with friends of the family, and she stayed there for 3 or 4 years working as a servant. She was then given a very good job in St. Patrick's Hospital because Dr. Robert Emmet, the father of the insurgent leader Robert Emmet, had been the governor there, and she stayed there for 6 or 7 years. She was offered and paid a very good salary, £63 a year. To give an idea of how much that was, the matron was getting £90 a year, and when and she was treated as an officer there, not a servant. Anyway, that lasted for 7 or 8 years. There was a commission of inquiry. All the management had to retire, were moved out, and she went as well. So from here, things went downhill a little bit. She started taking in washing and washing, even though she was quite sick. She had married in the 1830s a man called William Campbell, and they had 2 children, Catherine and William. But he died in 1845, and after that, then she was living in extreme poverty near the Liberties in Dublin. Towards the end of her life, a man called Richard Madden befriended her and knew of her past and befriended her and tried to help her. But when he was abroad in 1851, she died. And she was buried in a pauper's grave. When he returned from abroad, she had her exhumed, reinterred, and he paid for the monument over her grave. And that monument bears the image of a wolfhound, which is an image of loyalty in Ireland. But there's a very brief summary of a woman that's not forgotten, an ordinary peasant girl who did marvellous things. And because of her association, her brief association with an insurgent leader, she paid dearly for the rest of her life. There's a statue to her in Rathfarnham in Dublin, where she lived on the street. There are a number of streets named after her, and there's a mural near Mead Street in Dublin as well of her. And of course, her burial place in Glasnevin Cemetery in Dublin is well visited. So there's a person that remains in our history, a peasant girl, and I'm glad to bring you her story today. That's all from Mike's Hidden Histories. More next time.